Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. You are watching a procedure that I am going to be taking on outdoors, and I'll explain why. It'll make sense. I have in my hands a Singer 66 model. This is a model you've seen videos I've made of these before. It is one of the longest running Singer models that was ever in production by Singer. I'll be providing more information on this. I believe I've done a video perhaps when I first got it, and we're getting toward the last of the decent weather here before winter closes in, and so I wanted to show all of you why we're outside. I don't know how easy it is for you to see, but the undercarriage of this machine is rusted, and not just aesthetically rusted. It is actually rusted frozen. I can't get it to move, and my normal procedures are not going to work on this. I've actually had a Singer 185 some years ago that I did videos on where I had to soak it, and this is exactly where I soaked that. What did I do? I found a toolbox. It's a plastic toolbox, and the reason I'm using it is because it is perfectly sized for a Singer sewing machine. And what I plan on doing is soaking this machine in this. Now, all of you have heard me before talking about different methods for unlocking machines, and I think I've used Marvel's Mystery Oil. I think that may be what I used on the 185 several years ago. And I had to leave that machine, the 185, in this same container, this empty toolbox. I think it was maybe a few months, maybe, I'm not sure. But eventually I was able to break it free, and it was a lot of work. But today I'm going to try kerosene. Now, kerosene is known to be pretty good at helping loosen up rusted moving parts on something like a sewing machine and other things. Kerosene, of course, is what many of you may associate with kerosene lamps. The reason I do not use this indoors, in spite some of you suggesting that I do, is because it stinks. Now, a lot of solvents smell bad, but many solvents can impact you. All of us vary in how sensitive we are to smells. And the problem with kerosene is it doesn't evaporate easily. It has a lot of oil in it. And because of that, I'm not kidding you, I will not use it inside my house because you cannot get the odor to easily go away. It can really make for a bad time if you use it indoors, and things like your upholstery, your furniture, your mattresses start to absorb that odor. Again, I just highly caution you, in spite of what advice you may see on the internet, I know you're watching this online, is to be very careful about using it indoors. However, I have a garden shed, and I'm going to basically be putting the machine in just so. Now, the lid's not going to close, but that's all right. I'm not really worried about that, especially since, as I just mentioned, you don't get very fast evaporation. There are some solvents that will evaporate quickly, and you might want to cover them, but kerosene, I'm not really worried about. Kerosene is also known not to really harm paint finishes. Now, I'm not going to be some people have used kerosene to clean finishes. That's not my emphasis here. But what I will be doing is trying to get that bottom section soaked. Because again, without getting it unlocked, we're not going to get any movement. And instead of Marvel's Mystery Oil, I decided I would try kerosene this time. But again, safely outdoors in the garden shed where it won't harm anything. So I'm going to basically just pour it. And some of it's getting on the bed of the machine, but I'm not really worried about that. What I want to do is make sure I can bring the level of kerosene up so that I am sure to get all of those moving parts down there. Give me just a moment and I will get the camera closer so you can see the level I've got here. This, of course, is one of the Singer designs. There aren't many, but it's one of those that you have to have either a table or a carry case to set it up in order to use it. The running gear, you can't just set it right onto a dining table by itself because the running gear will slap into whatever it's sitting on. It needs to be elevated. So I'm seeing, because the machine has a slight tilt to the right because of what it sits on underneath. So what I want to do is make sure I've got 1 gallon here. 1 gallon, or 3.78 liters to be exact. And I basically put the whole thing in there. And what I'm looking for is, I want to make sure that I'll move this a little closer for you all, give you a better view. And you can see, if I wiggle the box, you may see the level of kerosene. And what is my goal here? I'm going to let the machine sit, and of course it, it's obviously not an instantaneous thing. When you're trying to break apart rust, you have to be patient. It's not a guarantee that you'll break it apart, but if you move quickly, you could really cause damage, because rust is pretty strong at holding things still. So when those parts break free, we want them to break free in a way that does not damage the machine. Very important to note this. So again, this machine and this tool case that's been very useful, as I've learned, for many things. It happens to be just big enough to hold the Singer, but you don't want something that's too big, because then you're going to need more than 1 gallon of kerosene. So I've had some of you suggest that I use kerosene for that Kenmore, which I may do, but if I do, it will be used. I'll have to come up with a method of getting that kerosene to the top of the motor and somehow getting that grease out. I'm still pretty skeptical of that, but not about the kerosene, but about getting it, because the Kenmore is a different design. The Singer, all of its issues and problems are below the bed surface, whereas the Kenmore, of course, has running gear, a lot of running gear above that was fouled with grease when someone made that awful mistake. So anyway, this is it. I just wanted to show you. Some of you may even forgotten I had this machine. I actually bought it because it came with an original Singer hand crank, not one of the Chinese copies, but an original Singer crank. And they, people want those. In fact, I don't know if I will sell this machine with the crank or without. I can offer it either way. The Singer cranks are, again, there are people who really like them. But anyway, you are seeing the 66. It will now go into my garden shed with the lawnmower, and we'll let it sit in there. It's still, when the sun shines on the shed, it does get warm in there, which will help, hopefully. And we will see what happens. I may come back in a week and check on it, and I may get nothing. I may come back in a month and get nothing. Who knows how long I may need to leave this to sit. But patience is a virtue, they say, and waste not, want not. This machine, if it had been stored properly, it would never have gotten rusted underneath. It was stored probably in a shed, ironically, which I would never do to a machine. But in this case, this machine must stay outdoors, because it'll be stinky for a while, but it'll clean up well if we can get it to move. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate all of you watching. Again, I know I've had a number of people recommend different kinds of solvents, and I've had a number of you recommend kerosene, and you are correct. Kerosene is a very useful solvent for unlocking rusted moving parts, but again, I just cannot and will not do it indoors. I'm just not willing to take the chance on making my home really, really unpleasant to be in. But outdoors here in the shed, I think we'll be fine. And we will see that, the paint finish on this machine's not bad. It's got a scratch or two around it, but given how old it is, this machine did not come with reverse, folks. So it was built sometime, I'll look up the serial number eventually. It was built sometime in the 20s or 30s maybe. until Singer added reverse on later versions. Anyway, I hope this is a helpful hint for all of you if you are stuck with a machine that's stubborn like this one. And again, maybe kerosene is the answer. We're about to find out. But again, always take precautions with any solvent that you use. Whether you consider yourself chemically sensitive or not, I personally don't like being around solvents. And kerosene is one that just hangs around and doesn't like to leave. So what I will probably do when I'm done with this exercise is I'll put the kerosene back into the original container with a funnel and use it for something else. Thanks for watching.